It's Ginny and Tim from DS Tech in Escanaba, Michigan, and we are going to share with you today about Windows Recall. Why was Windows Recall recalled?
Temporarily. I think it's still coming, but yeah.
And you know what? We'll tell you what it's all about too, because I had to ask Tim, what is Windows Recall? Do I have it on my computer? I have no idea. So we'll touch on all of that. So stay tuned. And at the end, I'll share with you how to get your free security assessment. Drop your questions. We would love to hear from you below the video, and I'll get back to you after the live. So, what is Windows Recall? Let's start with that because I don't even know, you explained it to me a little bit before we came live, but
So most people are familiar with like your browser history or like in your email where you could like search a term and it goes through all your emails and maybe you'd be able to find you an email. You're like, oh, what was I talking with Mark about last week or something? Whatever it is, you just kind of search it and it'll kind of bring you relevant documents to try to find that stuff. That's kind of the idea with Windows Recall is the idea is that it's going to be taking little snapshots of your computer as you're working. And then if for some reason you forget what you were doing last week or you wanted to look up some information you were working on, you could type in a search term and then using AI, it would go through all the images that it can scan and look for things. So you could type in, for example, music. And if you happen to browse YouTube or were listening to Spotify or whatever the little image is, it'll show the pictures of what you were doing that have the music search term on it. And then you could maybe find what you were working on to try to remember what you were doing or a document or anything you're working on.
Or maybe like conversation.
Yeah, conversation. Hey, I was talking with so-and-so. I forgot exactly where. And you can usually search Teams and certain things for that too. But this would be more for just anything on your computer you're doing, you can search now. So it's like a history
of everything. Like right now, I go.
Even right now, you could say you could type in live shows, and it would just show you every time you were using your computer to record live shows. And that's not a search term you could do right now. To see.
No, and not at all. Actually, I would have to look at my videos file to see what's in there.
Yeah, and then kind of manually look through them all and stuff. Where this would screenshot as you're working.
Or in the software, I could look at the history.
Yep. And then you can say, I don't want screenshots for this program and for this. You can kind of try to granularly say what you want and don't want to try to make it some more secure. But what eventually was found during the research and things like that, this was only available on the early insider. I forget the specific term for it, but for like the Windows people who like to test out beta features before they're actually released to the general public. And so some security researchers realized that all these images are just stored in your computer and they weren't really originally behind any sort of encryption or anything like that. So it's almost like a treasure trove if you put your hat on the attacker. If I can get into your computer and all of a sudden access all your images, I can go back in history and see what you were doing. And if you work, you're thinking now, if you work in like a hospital or a bank or a city or something or a tax firm, something with a lot of personal information on there, things that you may not want snapshots to be taken of, it could be a big security risk. Or if you just hit the little eyeball to look at your password to make sure there's no typo before you do it, guess what? Your password is now visible and it might have a screenshot of it, right? So there were some things people were thinking of, like this needs to be tightened down a little bit to be more secure.
So when you say that it was in beta, does that mean that we don't have it on our computers
yet? Yeah, if you have like Windows 11, there'll be a little icon that says Windows Recall and all that stuff. It's not there now. And also I'll go into like what Microsoft has done to kind of pivot on this and to kind of make it a little bit more secure so that it's not going to create a whole bunch of issues and headaches for people. But that's kind of the initial thing is that security researchers came out. There was even like, I think the script was called like Total Recall on GitHub where you could use it to like grab all the stuff. And anyway, it was just security researchers found the holes in it, found the bugs, let Microsoft know, and now they kind of pivoted. So the timeline, this is a little bit older now, was on June 14th. Was when Microsoft actually delayed the launch of this recall feature. It was new Windows 11 AI feature.
That's not too long ago. It's still my birthday month.
Yeah, I know. But like in security, like a week or two is like, that's last year, right?
Well,
so
I suppose.
It can be anyway.
That's true. That's true.
And
it
also,
happens fast.
One thing to note too, to use this feature on your computer, it didn't need to be pretty beefy. They were recommending the minimum requirements was an 8-core processor with 16 gigs of RAM and at least like a solid state hard drive with so much space because it uses a lot of stuff to save these images and do all that kind of stuff. So basically on June 14th, they did the delay in the launch. I do the pun, they recalled recall. On Windows 11 AI feature citing security concerns and the need for additional testing. Then on June 15th, they actually officially recalled Recall, moving it from the Copilot Plus PCs and announcing that it will be available only in the Windows Insider program. That's what it was, where you're kind of previewing the beta features beforehand. Then on June 18th, they announced that it will not be included with the initial launch of the Copilot Plus PCs, instead of opting to release it again to the WI Windows Insider program again. And then they added new security features to kind of help with this. So one thing is that it's no longer going to be enabled by default on your computer. So it happens sometimes where, Windows updates and all of a sudden you have a new feature that's turned on, you didn't even know it was on. That's called where there's this.
Yeah, like when Copilot showed up in the bottom right corner of my screen.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, wow, that's cool.
So it's not enabled by default. It's going to be opt-in. So you'll have to manually turn on recall on your computer if you wanted to use the feature. It's not going to just be turned on automatically. There's also, it will require to have the authentication. They call it the Windows Hello, where it's either the fingerprint, the PIN, or when you're Windows Hello, when you first sign into your computer, you do need to have some sort of 2FA set up in order to even use the feature on your computer. And it will require that user to be logged in to access that user's history, is how they're tightening it down to the individual user. So if a hacker logged into your computer as Joe Schmo hacker account, they're not going to have access to your snapshots, because only the person logging into the computer can access their snapshots, is how they're trying to minimize the spread and make sure that it's locked down and encrypted and things like that. So they call it the proof of presence will be required to view the timeline of saved activity and searching through it on the recall. My opinion, though, is still it could be a neat feature. It could be handy, but I'm always very, I'm security-minded, hesitant, and very critical. And so my thought is that the little bit of the benefit doesn't still outweigh the risk, because even if you had this under a different user, hackers can get in as another user and access other people's files. That happens all the time still. So yes, Windows and Microsoft are trying to minimize it and still make it secure. But my opinion is that they're going to still find a way to exploit it somehow, probably. And so my best advice is, if you're working on a computer where you may look at a password and all that kind of different stuff and using for work purposes, I would just leave recall off. I don't believe that the benefits outweigh the risk at this point. So why would you turn this on and use it? At least right now in its current state. I would definitely wait for it to be rolled out, let other people test it, let other people break it, find some holes in it until it's kind of really flushed out and proven to be 100% secure, no one can access it, then maybe use it. But personally, my recommendation to people right now is, for business purposes, for sure, I would disable it. On your personal, it's kind of up to you what you want to do, but that's my opinion on the Windows recall. So
I can only think of one usage scenario that I thought in my head would be useful, is like, where did I have this conversation with Tim about this ticket? Was it in email?
Was it
or
email?
Was it in Teams?
Was it in Teams? Was it in the software for the tickets? Where was it?
So I got to search all those different places to find it, and then I could just. However, the workaround is if I put all of our information in the ticket, it's there.
Yep.
That's where it should be anyway.
Anyway, yes.
Right?
Yep.
Because then if you need to look it up,
and look at the paper trail and all that
yeah.
stuff. Yep.
So that's the workaround for me anyway. And
so
interesting though. I mean,
that's what, they usually have new features, and usually new features aren't without, you got to kind of weigh the risk and the cost, whether it'll be good for you or not. But again, at this point,
at home, I like to play with the new features and just see if I want to use them.
That's what most people are doing, is they'll spin up a virtual machine or a test computer to play with it, turn it on and play with it, just to kind of see with it. And that way, if they are accidentally accessing their tax returns or something, it's not going to get screenshotted and potentially sitting out there, So.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that sitting out there.
Yeah. But
interesting.
But for right now, again, that's just figured
So it's not out there yet because it's been recalled.
It's been recalled. Yep, it's on the Windows Insider program right now, and you're not using that in production anyway. So, but again, when it finally does be released to the public and it's in the next Windows release, you're aware of it. Yep. And my advice again would be, don't turn it on. You don't need that. At least at this time.
At least right now.
Until it gets fully vetted and really, all the hackers are poking holes at it, and it becomes, impenetrable, according to their maybe they need local access or something that's really hard to get, but yeah,
cool, good information. Thank you so much. Drop your questions. I'd love to hear what your opinion is, if you've ever even heard of Windows Recall, and maybe how you find stuff on your computer. It'd be interesting to know. You can get your free security assessment at dstech.net.
Yeah,
we'll see you next time. Thank you, Tim.